हरि ओम। ओम सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ओम श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः। योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पातञ्जलि प्राञ्जलिना नतोऽस्मि। हरि ओम। We are in the third adhyaya, Vibhatipada of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. We are trying to see extraordinary, miraculous powers of an accomplished yogi. This is from the standpoint of a common man, one who is not accomplished in yoga. From the yogi's standpoint, there is nothing surprising, nothing miraculous. It's all normal. Let us try to understand how our own understanding about this universe, about ourselves, about our mind, about the process by which the mind thinks is so limited that we are a minuscule in the totality of understanding about the universe. Let us say if we talk about a snail or an ant, she crawls at a phenomenally less speed compared to a human being. So what would be the concept of distance in the mind or the brain of a snail or an ant? A few miles would be an astronomical distance for an ant or a snail. Light years is a concept that is simply beyond understanding of a snail or an ant, because the consciousness expressed in these animals is so less that even the perspective vision of the distance, extrapolating knowledge of present in future, is a faculty of human being. It is completely absent in animals. The hugeness in the eyes of an ant is a phenomenally small compared to the human eyes or human brain. What does this comparison indicate us? It indicates that consciousness, which is the main substratum of knowledge, expresses itself in different embodiments, in different proportions, depending upon the presence and the quantum of consciousness in any embodied body, your limit of knowledge is decided. Consciousness is never limited. The delimiting factor is the embodiment and the ability of expression of consciousness in that particular body. The sun never ever thinks of giving less light or more light. It is the surface that decides how much of it will be absorbed or reflected. A glass would reflect it more, while a wall or a brick wall shall not. Yoga is a systematic procedure of unfoldment of consciousness by making the instrument finer and sharper, and ultimately taking it to the root or the source of the consciousness. Every embodied thing in this world has ability to perceive. A bacteria also perceives. Throw a light, an amoeba moves. Every embodied thing has perception. The trees have perception. It is scientifically proved. And the perception or the presence of perception even in subatomic particles is not known to us. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The ability to know is pre-existent in everything. The ability and its limitation varies along with the expression of consciousness. A lamp always lightens the darkness, is dispelled, and the light is thrown by the lamp. It is only the covering on the lamp flame that will decide how much lamp light will be exhibited or utilized. In every perception, sense organs are used, and in some instruments which bring the information of the surroundings to the observer are the sense organs. Again, they in themselves may or may not be developed to a great extent, or some of the sense organs may be developed to a great extent while others may not be. A dog has eyes and sees everything, but relies more on olfaction. A dog looks at his master, but comes closer and sniffs his clothes to know that he is the master. The olfaction sense is more developed than the oculary sense. Which sense organ will be developed depends upon the species. This perception is simply bringing in the information from things around us. The world around us throws a lot of information to us through a peeping hole called sense organs. But somebody has to make the sense of this information that comes in, and the ability to make sense of what has come in is called cognition. Now, as far as perception and cognition is concerned, receiving the information from the surroundings and making sense of it is concerned, that everybody is aware of. It happens at a split second, and there is a continuous interaction we have since morning till night, till we are deep sleep. We are in deep sleep. We continue with this activity. But beyond this perception and cognition, there is something called metacognition. And mind well, I'm not talking Patanjali Yoga Sutra, I'm talking modern psychology. Metacognition, in short, is called thinking about thinking. Thinking about thinking. In other words, whatever you perceive or collect the information from outside through your sense organs, it's subjected to analysis through cognition. And there is a third authority which is observing that you're doing your job correctly. That authority, which is separate than cognition, is called metacognition by modern psychology. In Vedanta Shastra or the Sankhya Yoga Shastra, this metacognition is nothing else but the consciousness or the Chidabhasa or the reflection of consciousness, which actually a kind of supervises what is happening as far as utility of consciousness in applying it to the universe is concerned. And in this whole chain of things outside, perceived by sense organs, cognized by the mind or the chitta or antakarana, and illuminated, the entire process illuminated by the consciousness, in this entire process or the chain of continuity, whichever place you focus more, you remain in that world. You remain in the world of sense organs and perception, you will always be only in the bhoga part. I want to see the mountains, the streams of rivers. I want to see the birds and enjoy them. I want to see the trees. You are trying to focus yourself in getting more and more sensory stimuli because you ascribe or you have ascribed or you have developed a tendency, vasana, to ascribe happiness to these things. So a common man, which is full of tamo and rajoguna, is focused more on this particular perception cognition complex to enjoy through the sense organs, which is called upabhoga. A yogi, in contrast, realizes that this is just a trifle use of consciousness, an incidental use of consciousness. What is the point in focusing on the reflected light of a glass? It is better to find out what is reflected in the glass, the sun, and they focus themselves backwards towards the source of consciousness. The approach or the sadhana is nothing else but to release yourself from the perception cognition complex of the sense organs and walk inwards towards the source of consciousness. As we start moving towards the metacognition, or the faculty that helps in cognition, and the place where cognition takes place, according to Yoga Shastra, is antakarana, and according to the science, it is the brain. The first distinctly opposite conception in understanding between science and adhyatma is the entire perception, cognition, and everything ends in brain, a central nervous system in science, while central nervous system is considered only as an organ by the Yoga Shastra, and it recognizes chitta or antakaran as the place where the meaning is made out of the perception and cognition. And that being the reason, Yoga Sutra or the Yoga Shastra focuses on not on organs, not on brain, but on antakarana. In order to regulate the antakarana, in order to regulate the buddhi, in order to regulate the chitta, it may take help of bodily organs which are directly affected by chitta, such as respiration. So ahara, vihara, and pranayama, etc. are the niyamas and yama and niyamas which are practiced so as to focus on the chitta or the antakarana. It is not easy to focus on chitta and antakarana and study that in terms of its changes called vrittis or pravrittis, unless we cut off ourselves from the sense organs and their business. To cut off from the sense organs and their business, we must realize that this is a sense organ business and it has nothing to do with me. My consciousness is altogether different. This is a absolute trifle utilization of consciousness. This thought process of separating distinctly this sense organ oriented activity from nonsensical perception is called viveka. And when that is confirmed in the mind, the steps taken to cut off all the perceptions which are sense organ based is called vairagya. The fundamental rule is there is no entry into the inner sanctum of the mind or the antakarana unless the outside world is closed. The closing of the outside world, the shutting of the front door is vairagya. More close the outer world, more focused will be the journey inside towards the chitta and antakarana. And for those who have practiced this kind of cutting off themselves from the external world of perception and sense organs and the cognition thereof, there starts an internal journey of observation of chitta or antakarana and mind well. At this point of time, the yogi is completely distinct from the chitta and antakarana. It's in trying to be in the mode of an observer of the chitta and antakarana. And while observing it, it comes across enormous scope of consciousness which was so far lying dormant in chitta or antakarana. A prism which was so far covered with the dust was reflecting the sunlight, but the sunlight that was coming out was very poor. Manda prakash. In that poorly lit sunlight, I was trying to see the things, and that was my world of perception. Now that I've started working on cleaning up of the prism, which I have cleaned up completely, the light is getting reflected fully, and this reflected light is now able to throw itself everywhere, and things which were not seen earlier are now perceptible to me. So those who with the soiled prism, they feel what a great man he is because he's able to do things, see things, and think about the things which is not privy to us, which is beyond our limits. It is not beyond the limits. It is just that a common man does not work upon his chitta or antakarna, while yogi takes it as a prime important thing. He polishes the chitta and antakarna of all tamasa and rajasa, which is nothing else but the chitta shuddhi. And as a result of that, he gets a pristine, pure intellect or the chitta or the antakarna, which now starts taking a journey for a speedier uncovering of consciousness, slowly lifting the yogi into higher and higher realms of consciousness. This movement of the yogi into the higher realms of consciousness then brings him certain experiences which were so far not available to his intellect, simply because his intellect was not polished enough, penetrating enough, ready enough to perceive them, which he starts perceiving now, which a common man calls as siddhi. They are not powers. They are nothing else but the visualization of the vast field of consciousness as you move up and up and up. This upping of consciousness requires enormous amount of concentration. A clean and a pure mind is the only mind that is able to, or that can even think of concentration. A person whose chitta shuddhi is not there should not think of concentration. A person with a blunt sword cannot go to the war. A person with an impure heart cannot think of meditation. Meditation is an act of dharana, dhyana, and samadhi together, whereby the yogi completely shuts off the sense organs and brings his consciousness right there, focused on an alambana, on any one and only one thing, an object of reverence or otherwise, and focuses on the object with a complete force of concentration, ekagra chitta. This absolute harnessing of power of an object with the application of dhana, dharana, dhyana, samadhi is called sanyama. This sanyama then opens the consciousness in different levels. Every day is a nitya nutana jagrati. Every day the yogi starts getting realization of higher realms of consciousness. Mind well, the object is a medium. And that is why every object is endowed with consciousness, and the sanyama on the object would mean directly cognizing the consciousness in that object. Moment that is done, the way the consciousness has expressed in that particular object, that becomes privy to the yogi. An elephant is walking in the jungle. For us, it is an animal walking, because our consciousness cannot penetrate beyond the pachyderm skin and the tusk. All we know about it, oh, it's a herbivorous, huge mammal having tusks. Beyond that, our knowledge is not there. For a yogi, if he takes elephant as an object of meditation, not only he explores the consciousness in the elephant, but in elephant, the consciousness is expressed in the form of a huge power, the elephant's power. That power becomes privy or property of the yogi. So by focusing on hasti or the elephant, a yogi actually can get and does get power of an elephant. So whatever is a special exhibition or manifestation of consciousness in any embodied thing, that is what the yogi gets simply by focusing on it. The wind is blowing around us as a tornado. A huge storm is coming. Yogi focuses on the storm because storm is a specific manifestation of consciousness in the form of wind. The wind has power, but a cool breeze does not bother us. When the power of the wind gets concentrated in the form of a storm, it can wreak havoc. Focusing on that wind, a yogi can get the power of the wind in himself. Now perhaps we understand why Hanuman is called Pavana Suta. A yogi of very high order. Hanumana was having a Pavana at his mercy. This particular siddhi is called Baleshu Hasti Baladini. Baleshu, in the force, in the power, Hasti Baladini. Elephant and likes of elephant, the power comes to the yogi by doing sanyama on that particular object. Let me give you an example that happened with Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. There were two tantric yogis. known to be excelling their art of Tantra Yoga, which is not the Patanjali Yoga by the matter. They were the Hatha Yogis of very high order and had obtained some siddhis. And both of them were competing with each other in the upper part of Kamarupa, the Assam region. And one was from Bengal region. And both of them, when they came to know that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa is a tantric par excellence, they wanted to come and settle the score with each other in order to know who is superior to whom. Both of them then walked to Dakshineshwara, and right at the door of the temple complex of Dakshineshwara, remember Dakshineshwara temple complex is huge. Right at the gate, one of them started exhibiting his power. He stood at the door and started doing hunkar. Hunkar is saying in a larger voice. Now, how much the voice can go up when you do it has a limitation. But for a yogi, because the sound depends on the wind, and because of the control of the wind, the hunkar that was given by one of this tantric yogi was so loud that all the people from Dakshineshwar came out of their temple complexes and started saying that, oh, there is an earthquake. All the bells started making sound and started swinging at alarming speed in each and every temple. Everybody was scared as if the earth is going to now shatter. Except one person, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, who was sitting quietly at his place. When people ran to Ramakrishna and said, Ramakrishna, Thakurda, what is happening? He asked them to keep quiet, and then Ramakrishna himself made a hunkar, which was so loud that the person tantric at the gate realized that there is some much senior and superior tantric is sitting inside, and he kept quiet. What this indicates is the ability to control the wind or the Vayu Shakti. It depends on where the yogi concentrates. Vainateya is eagle or Garuda. If the yogi focuses on the Garuda, he gets the power of the Garuda. When he gets that power, if he decides to snap his hand to somebody, the person will instantly die, because it is not his hand. Now it is a wing of an eagle. There are many examples where accomplished yogis have utilized these powers, not for the exhibition of their powers, but the situation demanded it. Mind well, many Sufi saints, being the yogis of higher order, there is very little difference between Sufism and yoga. That is why majority of disciples of Gorakshanatha were also Sufis. Sant Eknath's guru's guru was a Sufi, because the difference between the Sufi practice and the yoga practice is very thin. In India, one of the biggest and the most famous Sufi tradition is called Chisti tradition, which was established by Sheikh Muinuddin Chisti, who is called as Garib Nawaz from Ajmer. Muinuddin Chisti's disciple was Khwaja Bakhtiyar Khaki, Kutubuddin Bakhtiyar Khaki. It is the same Kutubuddin Bakhtiyar Khaki in whose memory Qutub Minar is standing in Delhi. This Kutubuddin Bakhtiyar Khaki's disciple was Baba Fariduddin Ganji Shakar. This Baba Fariduddin Ganji Shakar's disciple was Nijamuddin Auliya. And Nijamuddin Auliya's disciple was Nijamuddin Charag-e-Dilli. This is the glorious Sufi tradition. All of them were accomplished yogi who used to do meditation, which is called mujahidis, for many days without food. All the Sufis were having extraordinary power. And just to know the example of Hasti Baladini, how the power comes to the yogi, the example of one of the disciples of Baba Farid. His name was Hazrat Ahmad Ali Sabir. He's also called as Sheikh Makhdoom Sahab. There is a place called Kalyar near Haridwar. That is where he was sitting, and being a Sufi, he used to meditate and do his prayers. The city of Kalyar, it's a small village now, but that time it was quite a populated place. All of them came and troubled this Sufi a lot. They troubled him to the extent that they aroused the wrath in the Sufi. He was so annoyed that he wanted to use his power to teach the entire village or the city a lesson. But before using the power, he sent a message to his guru saying that this is what I want to do. I want to do what is called as Jalal. Jalal means wrath. Jalal means destruction. Jalal. So he took permission, and understanding very well the situation, being the accomplished yogi, Baba Farid allowed him to do the wrath. And then came the wrath from this particular Sheikh Makhdoom Sahab in Kalyar. He utilized his extraordinary powers to bring in earthquake at that place. And after that, he commanded fire, Agni, to torch the place for 4 days. For no obvious reason, the ground of this village, with a perimeter of 24 miles, it was burning for 4 days without fuel. And the wrath was, he cursed the people, saying that in this land there will not be even a blade of grass for 300 years. And Kalyar did not have a blade of grass in this 24 kilometers for 300 years. On 301st year, the soil there started sprouting with the green grass. This village is still there with the same name. This is the power of Pancha Mahabhuta that can be exhibited and utilize the balam of that particular power. If decided, a yogi can bring in torrential rains, if decided. And that is why Pavana Sutta Hanuman was able to utilize the Pavana, the wind, any way he wanted. He would ride on the wind, he would call for the wind, he would use the fire, he would extinguish the fire, because Hanumana was a very highly accomplished yogi. Similarly, another siddhi that comes to the yogi is pravritya aloka nyasat sukshma vyavahita viprakrishta jnanam. Remember, every siddhi is the effect of sanyama. Sanyama is a dharana, dhyana, samadhi on any object. Now you can focus on the object called elephant and get the power of the elephant. But the yogi, when he goes further beyond that, in still higher realm of consciousness, his object of focus then becomes not an object, but an internal thing. Now, internal thing can be internal organ, which is again perceptible, or the abstract things like buddhi, asmita. Now look at the irony of the thing. It is my own buddhi and I'm trying to focus on buddhi. Sounds very paradoxical, but need to understand that antakarna is not me. Ahankar is not me. Although they are the most innermost things of me, they are not me. If they are not me, whatever is not me, whatever is not consciousness itself, is an object of concentration. Manifestation of Prakriti, including Prakriti itself, is an object of meditation. Everything under Prakriti, including Prakriti, is an object of meditation. The only place, only thing which cannot be meditated upon is consciousness itself, because consciousness cannot meditate on consciousness, because consciousness itself is consciousness. Anything which is not consciousness, anything which is a jada, anything which is a mayika, anything which is prakrutika, is an object of concentration, because the concentration or the sanyama is because of the consciousness, and Prakriti being different than the Chaitanya or the Purusha, because the one who does sanyama is aspect of Purusha. Upon what the sanyama is done is aspect of Prakriti. So most subtler things in the Prakriti are difficult to do the sanyama upon. It is very easy to do sanyama on an idol, on an elephant, on a wind even, on a fire, because these are all visible manifestation. The invisible manifestations which still exist but are abstract, called mind, buddhi, ahankar, they are abstract. Yet yogi is able to focus on them. Now a question comes to the mind. How do I focus on ahankar when I don't know what ahankar is? Because there is no physical characteristic to ahankar and buddhi. Yet, the level at which the yogi has reached, he is able to decipher the buddhi from the consciousness and makes buddhi as an object of meditation. When buddhi is made object of meditation, naturally whatever is inherent in buddhi comes to him, because whatever you do sanyama on, the entire power of that comes to you. If the object of sanyama is elephant, the elephantine power comes to you. If the object of meditation is buddhi, whatever is in buddhi comes to you. If it is done on ahankara or asmita, asmita aspect also comes to you. And what is the nature, true nature of buddhi and ahankara or asmita? Mind well, buddhi is Surya, Chandra, Graha, Manikant, Prabhavat. Buddhi is the most shining, lustrous, illustrious, blazing, absolute, effulgent structure. So it is a Prakash personified. So when the yogi focuses on buddhi, then what happens? Vishoka Jyotishmati. In the first adhyaya of Samadhi Pada, we had seen Vishoka Jyotishmati. Vishoka Jyotishmati means like a flame, Jyotishmati. Mati, the buddhi is more like an effulgent light. When he focuses on buddhi, the yogi gets the buddhi's power into him in entirety, in its original condition. And buddhi's original power is to enlighten and make him understand everything. Whatever is given to the buddhi, buddhi understands. The very function of buddhi is to know the correct knowledge of whatever is seen. And is there any limitation on the buddhi? The limitation is on the sense organs, not on the buddhi. You are able to see a mountain because your eyes can only see a mountain. Beyond the mountain, the eyes cannot see. And that is why the buddhi is not able to tell you what is beyond the mountain, because the sense organ brings to you the information that is possible for the eye. What is not possible for the eye cannot be brought to the buddhi. But in case of yogi, he decides, because of his enormous ability to do the sanyama, his buddhi does not require sense organs to reach to the objects to know the knowledge. In other words, if you have a small torch and you want to know what is lying in the darkness, you have to bring that particular object in the torchlight and see what is it. But if you have a blazing sun, then you can see everything lying everywhere without bringing the object closer to the torch. That is the difference between the buddhi of a normal man and a yogi. So such a yogi sitting at one place is able to see everything. As described in the Bhashyam, he is able to see a small haystack, a small pin on the top of a Himalayan mountain, and he can see also a small pebble at the bottom of the ocean. To see at the top of the mountain, he will not focus himself or do Sanyam on the top of the mountain. He will do Sanyam on his buddhi. So at any given point of time, the yogi shall know what is where, who is where, irrespective of avruttam, irrespective of the coverings. So all the hidden treasures are known to the yogi. We have had many examples where the wandering monk said to a king that you dig at this place and you will get dhanam. It appears to be miracle. There is no miracle because a monk is able to see right inside the soil. There are many examples where the sadhus have told precisely the place where you will get water when somebody is trying to dig the well. This knowledge is because of focusing of the Sanyama on the Buddhi Tattva, which is Surya Chandra Grahamani Kanti Samprabhavan. While focusing on Asmita, now look at the height of Sanyama that a yogi does. What is Asmita? I am is Asmita. Now, this original feeling that I am appears so abstract to us that we say, yes, I am, but what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything to us because I am, yes, I am. Because I am is something which we are confident about. You may not be confident about anything else in this world, but I am you are confident about. And you don't have to take any special efforts to know that I am. Your presence, your existence is something inherent in you. This is Asmita. But that being a Jada feeling, because it is not consciousness, the yogi of a higher level is able to dissect that I am and make that as an object of Sanyama and focus on Asmita. During that period, the only thought that he has, only vritti that he has in his mind is I am. I am. Mind well, it is not I am so and so. No. Then it's gone. It's no more meditation. I am. On the astitva aspect, on the chit aspect, on the astitva aspect of asti bhati priti asti aspect, he focuses themselves. And how is this Asmita aspect? Asmita is nistarang mahan samudravat shant. When he does this, the Sanyama on Buddhi and Asmita together, when these two pravrittis, mind well, Buddhi and Asmita, both are also pravrittis of Chitta. When this pravritya alokanyasat, there arises an effulgence. Now we understand Gayatri Mantra very well. Bhargo devasya dhimahi. Let that effulgence of the Buddhi, the effulgence of God come in my Buddhi. Effulgence coming in the Buddhi is nothing else but Vishoka Jyotishmati. Focusing on Buddhi and Asmita to get Alok means Prakasha. Once that is done, then Sukshma Vyavahita, howsoever microscopically small, to an extent the yogi is able to visualize all the atoms, subatomic particles, whatever he wants to visualize. Now there is no barrier because eyes cannot see subatomic particles, but the yogi does not use sense organs for perception. This is extrasensory perception. And this has happened in science also. If one has studied chemistry, the aromatic compounds, the compounds that are made basically from the benzene, we all know that benzene has a ring. It is called benzene ring. This benzene ring structure was under investigation for a long time. And a person who got the answer for this was Kekule. Kekule was sleeping in his field one night. And while sleeping, when he was neither awake nor sleeping, he felt he was in a dream. And in the dream, he saw 6 snakes, each snake eating the tail of the another snake. And from there, he came out next day with a formula and with a figure of the benzene ring structure, which is accepted in chemistry today. This is called intuitive power. Intuition is a very poor word for the word in Sanskrit called pratibha. Pratibha, the poorest substitute in English is intuition. Intuitive knowledge, this word is used by Gurudeva quite often in the commentaries of Bhagavad Gita or all his books. He uses intuition as the word because there is no closer word than that in English, so he is helpless to use it. The real word is pratibha. The yogi's pratibha, the jnani's pratibha, the bhakta's pratibha is at a level where they do not require intervention of sense organs to know the thing. That is why the yogi, when he focuses on buddhi and asmita tattva, and it is not very difficult to understand. What is the use of telescope? Our eyes cannot see. So what do we use? We use a telescope to see a distant object suddenly comes within the purview of the eye. What happened here? The telescopic lenses helped in bringing the object closer to the eye. The object has not reduced in its distance, but it came closer to the eye because of intervention of telescope. So that means anything that is remote can be brought within the purview of the sense organs. Why do we use a microscope? A bacteria normally cannot be seen by the eyes, but with lenses of the microscope, we are able to see it. That means the subtlety, the remoteness, the subtlety, and the metaverse aspect. See how the things are taking full circle. The world is now buzzing with the word metaverse. It's an exciting development in the digital technology. What is a metaverse? In the highly evolved sense of the word metaverse, there will be places where we will actually be teletransporting ourselves with the help of some VR glasses or the virtual reality phenomena, whereby we shall be sending our avatar. In fact, the word used also in metaverse by the modern science is avatar. Avatar means you do not move from your place. You are placed in the virtual reality where you will be having virtual experience, which is not the actual experience, but will resemble or will replace the actual experience. It is nothing else but the world called metaverse. This metaverse concept, which is now getting developed through this virtual reality or augmented reality, as they call it, AR, VR, IoT, AI, whatever they call it, it's all a feeble attempt to stretch the physical aspect of manifestation within the realms of modern discovery. But it can never match with the yogis simply because the science tries to touch the material aspect. A yogi goes on non-material aspect, whether it is matter or energy. The foundation of universe is mind. The science is always looking towards the manifested side. Yogis always look towards the unmanifested source. Everything in this world has emanated from mind. So the very first approach of a yogi is to focus on mind, not on the manifestation. While the science is entirely focused on manifestation and trying to find out the different aspects of manifestation as discoveries, without realizing that it is nothing else but the ever-changing prakriti, the whole thing is coming from only one thing, that is mind. Not only that, a science is convinced about the existence of the things, and then they are trying to find out within the given parameters of time and space the different phenomena, and it is called as a Nobel laureate's discovery. But the very fact that the whole thing that is being seen as a stationary thing bound by time and space is not bound by time and space, but it is a continuously evolving and ever-changing Prakriti, and it is perceived in the manner that you perceive. It is not the way you perceive. It actually exists in a much different form than you perceive, is what the yogi believes. The physicality of matter and energy is what is accessed by the science. Yoga is completely opposite. It discards all external aids and relies on unfoldment of consciousness or the inner organ of perception. Yogi unwraps layer by layer the subtle realms of the matter till it reaches consciousness. That is why the one who focuses, the one who does sanyama on buddhi and asmita, he gets clairvoyance and clairaudience. The yogi is able to see anything that is distant, whether it is separated by the lakes, oceans, or any prakriti for that matter. It's been a common story with the monks in India to have seen distant things. At a place called Kumbhakonam, when Swami Vivekananda was in Parivrajaka Vrata with his disciples from Madras, he went to a person who was known to know things happening at distant places. There's a clear-cut mention in the letter written by Swami Vivekananda to Maharaja Ajit Singh of Alwar. In the letter, he says, Maharaj, I saw a person here who is expert in clairvoyance and clairaudience, and he's so good at it that I went there and I was told. Actually, I went there for one simple reason. I wanted to know about my mother. Even though Swami Vivekananda was a monk, he was still attached to his mother. And he was, there are beautiful statements about it. He says, what if I'm a sannyasi? It doesn't stop me from loving my mother. So he wanted to know about mother. He was worried about his mother's health. And there was no way of knowing, because those were not the days of mobile or any other communication. So they went to this gentleman, and this gentleman, before going, Swami Vivekananda wanted to test him. So he had three things in mind, and he thought he will ask him these three things. One of them was a mantra in Tibetan language known to Swami Vivekananda, which was in his mind. Second is he wanted to know about the health of his mother. And third is a very weird question. He wanted to know whether his guru was the right guru and a truly realized man. So all of them went to this gentleman and they thought they will ask the question, but the person asked them not to ask the question. And when Vivekananda sat there, he gave him a piece of paper. Vivekananda opened the paper and he was surprised and shocked to see that the entire Tibetan mantra was written in Tibetan language as well as other language. He told him that your guru is nothing else but the walking God on earth. His name is Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and he is watching you from the Sushumna wherever you are going. And the third thing he said, being a monk, you should not be attached to your mother. However, since you want to know, your mother is a little unwell, but don't worry, nothing is going to happen to her. She'll be alive for next 2 years. All this was known to this gentleman simply by the power of concentration. This is what exactly this Alokanyasat. And the best part of it is, when it was asked, what is the dakshina that he wants? He said, all I want is Ashirvad from this monk who has come here, because he's a monk of a very high order. In fact, indirectly he told that compared to me and my siddhis, this yogi who has come is a far higher yogi than mine. It is quite possible that Vivekananda himself was already having this siddhis, but he never utilized it. They were already given to him as a gift by his own guru. So all the siddhis he knew, and that is why Sanyama on Aloka or Prakash of Buddhi and Asmita leads to a clairvoyance and clairaudience powers in the yogi. The next siddhi comes by making Surya as the Sanyama object. Yogi is such a powerful person. For us, sun is a very powerful thing. We cannot even look at sun for a longer time. But for a yogi, this entire Prakriti, the stars which are far more brilliant than sun, anything, galaxies, huge black holes, anything yogi can focus upon. And that is why if he does Sanyama on Surya, Bhuvana Jnanam Surya Sanyamat. When you focus on the Surya, what happens? We see sun as a blazing disk. Hiranmayena Patrena, blazing disk. But for a yogi, when he focuses on Surya, Surya being an object, being a Jada, the Surya's inner consciousness, the effulgence and the tej of Surya coming from the source of consciousness gets revealed to the yogi. As it is revealed to the yogi, he becomes instant witness of all the Chaturdasha Bhuvanam. Mind well, there are certain elements in the description of Patanjali Yoga Sutra which one might feel to be very, very outlandish, imaginary. Let me warn you, there's nothing imaginary in what is being discussed here. The Chaturdasha Bhavana, we cannot see Swargam, so we say there is no Swargam. That doesn't work, sir. Your inability to perceive the Bhuvanas, the Lokas. Oh, Patala is a concept. Sir, if Patal is the concept, then how yogi sees it? Satyaloka, Mahatloka, Mahaloka, Tapoloka, Swargaloka. Oh, these are all concepts. If it is a concept, how is it that the yogi is able to visualize it? All this Chaturdasha Bhuvanam, yogi is able to visualize. Which are these Chaturdasha Bhuvanam? What yogi sees there? Who stays there? How and in what form the yogi sees these things and different levels of this lokas? How the yogi is able to see the Patala? How yogi becomes instantly aware of the Bhuloka and the Saptaloka upwards and Saptaloka Urdhva and Adho. Saptaloka downwards would be the matter of discussion in the coming session of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Vibhuti-pada, while studying, it boggles the mind. Some skeptics might feel that it is nothing else but exaggeration. But the yogi of the stature of Patanjali Maharaj, who has given such a detail and such a esoteric knowledge in Sadhana Pada, will not have any business without any reason to mention all these siddhis. Every sutra he is trying to tell us the limits to which the consciousness can be expanded. And the higher the consciousness, you come to know the higher designs of the Lord. A blind person should not criticize the one who has vision simply because he is not able to see it. It is just that you don't have the eyes to see it. When Bhagavan Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita said to Arjuna that Arjuna, I will be showing you Vidata Darshana, he was very happy, but he said, no, not with your eyes. You need to jack up the power of your eyes because you need Jnana Chakshu. What Jnana Chakshu that he was calling for? Even in Bhagavad Gita, we looked at this Virata Darshana as again a miracle by the Bhagavan. No, it is no miracle. There are no miracles. Arjuna, being the yogi of highest order, developed this particular aspect by doing the Sanyama on the Surya, and then he was able to see the Chaturdasha Bhuvanam, the entire thing, the entire universe, and on the top of it, he saw them happening in the mouth of Sri Krishna himself, the Yogeshwara. Every vibhuti is manifestation in the Prakriti of the consciousness. Prakriti is Bhavu Prasava. Anything can manifest anyway, much beyond our thinking. A combination of consciousness, Purusha and Prakriti can create jugglery. That is why Yantra Rudhani Mayaya. We all are subjected to a three-dimensional body and 5 sense organs. Tomorrow it could be one-dimensional body with 7 organs. There could be people who are not walking, but they are moving horizontally. We cannot think of it. Prakriti, everything is possible. She is Kalima. She is Sharada. She can do anything with the help of consciousness. That is why there are no miracles. It is only simply transcending the limits of the consciousness which we have put upon ourselves because of the admixture of the Tamo and the Rajoguna. Let Sattva prevail. The consciousness will expand, and we will come. It will come under our ambit. The so-called miracles will become a natural thing for us. Hariyo. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Hari Om Sanjay ji. I have not seen anyone unmuted, but if anyone has a question, please unmute and ask.
Hari Om Sanjay ji.
Hari.
Rajendran here.
Hari.
As usual, I was really stunned today also with this Jnana Ganga that you are flowing through this mechanical device. Actually, I was thinking when you were talking about this Jnana, to various instances of our epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata. When Hanuman went to take Sanjeevani to make alive our Lakshmana, actually he didn't know the exact place where the Sanjeevani is growing. So he took the entire mountain and brought. That he was not precisely knowing that. Okay, he didn't know the that is a particular example that he was not aware precisely where it was growing. Whereas in when it came to Lord Krishna, he was asked by Sanjay, what is his guru? Sandipini Maharshi. Please bring as a Guru Dashina, bring my son. Which Sandipini Maharshi himself thought it was impossible, but Lord Krishna knew that where he was hiding. He went to the sea and precisely picked him and brought him, and Samarpana as done as a Guru Dakshina. That is, there are many instances. Like our Shankaracharya, when his mother was fallen sick and she was about to die, he knew that mother is sick. And because of this type of jnana, he immediately with his disciples came to Kaladi here in Kerala and witnessed her death, and after cremation only he went back. See, these are the living examples of what we are discussing in here. And as you said, Swami Vivekananda has got the similar knowledge. So it is leave alone the skeptics. We don't care about them. We just don't care about them, because if we are going to think about these skeptics, we will not get time to think about this all precious knowledge. This is what I wanted to share with you. Hari Om. Other people will have doubts. Hari Om. Thank you very much.
Hari Om, Sanjay ji. It really boggles listening to this siddhis of the yogis, and all are depending on the consciousness, concentration of the consciousness. And we have mentioned about this. I mean, we have studied about this aloganyasa today, no? And that now, what might bothers me or confuses me, that yogis, they have this power activated all the time, or only when they require they activate it.
Yes, the Sayama is not a constant affair. When the yogis are practicing Sayama, depending upon which Sayama they are practicing, they get that particular knowledge. After that, when they reach to the stage of Kaivalya, at that point of time, they are constantly aware of it. So it is like being aware of all these potential capacities and a normal life simultaneously. So that is why when the yogi becomes Ishvara Sama, that is why Sri Krishna Bhagavan is called Yogeshwara. He is yogi and Ishvara. After doing a Purusha Khyati, after attaining Kaivalya, all these powers, because it is not a question of power, you are beyond Prakriti. Prakriti is under it, she is a slave of Purusha. She is Ashraya. She is Ashrita. So that is why utilizing any of these powers for a yogi who has reached to the stage of Kaivalya is not at all difficult. But during the journey, there are yogis who are still to reach Kaivalya and are having these siddhis. So for them, whenever they do the Sanyama, they get the power. For those who have already crossed the boundaries and gone beyond, they use it as and when required, within a jiffy, within a second. Hari Om.
Hari Om Sanjay ji, in this Bhagavatam, this 23 is explained by Lord to Uddhava. So, and is it a summary of all these 56 or so, what is explained here in Vibhuti Yoga?
Yes,
and
yes.
There Bhagavan is saying that these are, you should know this so that you don't get stuck in this.
Yes. Because while the journey is happening of a yogi from an ordinary mortal to somebody who is extraordinary or supra mental capacity, it is quite possible. Generally, the purity with which one practices this, there is not a very high chance of falling down, but still the powers are so overwhelming that there could be temptation of using it. Imagine you are a poor person and suddenly you are given thousands of dollars and told not to spend. It is very difficult. That is why unless Vairagyam is at its peak, and that is why such yogis, those who then fall down, are called Bhrashta yogis. For them, they have to start again from the point where they have lost it. So they will be reborn. So that is why continuing it till the end, till you reach the Kaivalya, is a matter of very high grit and extremely high Vairagya. That is called Para Vairagya. Hari Om.